Good morning, Yasha Allah, and all the diaspora. We greet you, brethren, brothers, and sisters of the household of faith. We greet you in the blessed name of Abba Yahweh and his revelation of Hamashiach, the Blessed One, the King, whom the world hates. Him we teach all patience to all men, so that some might be saved. In his name, and in the presence of the Blessed One, the Ruach, the power of life, the gift of eternal life through Mashiach, we bring you this word. And our first line of address is to all the nations of the earth, leaving none out, to all the nations of the earth, to the scientists, to the doctors, philosophers, and all the revered great thinkers of the earth, all of you. We call you to the feast today because this is your hour to learn from your teachers, the 12 tribes of the children of Yasha Allah. So we invite you, the greatest minds that you think you have, send them, that we may teach them the will of our Father and of Mashiach, the one altogether lovely. Yikan Tabayaya. And therefore we say to you, from the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Book of Corinthians chapter 1. You can go and read this. We haven't gotten into the thick of our lesson. We're just making an introduction for your benefit. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 25. 1 Corinthians 1 and verse 25. And I haven't gotten it yet myself, but it says, for the foolishness of Al-Hayam is wiser than men. And the weakness of Al-Hayam is stronger than men. And therefore, again, in the name of Yahweh, our Father, the great King, and his beloved, the blessed Son, Mashiach, Yahushai, or Yahusha, and any other name that you think that you have to recognize him by, his foolishness, as you would call it, as many of you have openly confessed to his foolishness and your disregard and disrespect of him. The scriptures are saying to you this morning, all the wise men of the world, that the foolishness of Abba Yah is wiser than men. That's right. And so we bring you some wisdom from this foolishness that you have called it. Teach you wisdom today. we bring you to understand as I address my brethren, Yasha Allah, there's a thing called a conception called the mystery of sin. You remember that from the book of Revelation chapter 2? And if we look at verse 24, Revelation chapter 2 and 24. The school time children all across the earth, call them, please call them. And unto you I say, this is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 24. And unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not known this doctrine and have not known the depths of Satan. Satan is Gabriel, that is shown to you in the book of Hanok or Enoch. Those which have known the depths of Satan, of Gabriel, as the book of Hanok, of Enoch shows to you. And as they speak, I will put upon you none other burden. I want to read that verse again with a little bit more clarity and connectedness. Verse 24 of chapter 2 in Revelation. But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Gabriel, as they speak, I will not put upon you, or I will put upon you none other burden. In my notes here, I have as a preliminary thought that would be, or that it is, an address to this topic, the subject that we're discussing now, of the splicing. We're talking about a number of issues related to the subject of the man of sin, the end times, and the time of the Gentiles coming to its end, and the restoration of the 12 tribes. That's a broad sweep covering our lesson. But it is in direct reference to this splicing technique that has been a catalyst in the great and universal struggle of humanity that has been occasioned by or brought into its prominence by the fact of the covenant offered to two brothers in the book of Bereshith, in Genesis, that is, the brothers Esau and Jacob, Yaquab. So because of this covenant being perverted, first rejected by Esau, accepted by Yaquab, and so offered to Yaquab, that is the root of the world disturbance or disturbances that have uh, plagued humanity for these thousands of years. And many have not been able to solve to their satisfaction in their thinking, in their mind, in their calculations of the importance of humanity. That's why having this conflict in the midst of humanity. They have asked many bright minds, philosophers and thinkers, and scientists, physicists, because all the sciences are connected to the relational issues of humanity. All the sciences are connected to the relational issue of humanity. Because if there is no humanity in terms of us being the guardians of the planet or the world, the earth, and to produce what is needed to have us manage the earth, manage the care of the earth, to take care of it so that it shines among the planetary bodies as the beacon of hope that it is. But without man, who was promoted to the position of caretaker of the earth, there would be no such action of a productive or productivity in the earth. The earth would be empty and void. No one to manage caring for it. And so in the birthright offering to Esau and Yaquab, the whole thought, idea towards taking care of the earth, the world, as we say it in common language. The question of caretaker, taking care of the earth, the world, as we say it in most common language. This has been the problem, because the Most High, as it would, toss up the coin and say, the one who catches it can have the authority to rule over the earth. It was a covenant, as we all now know. And Esau rejected the covenant and took a plea bargain from Satan to have him placed in the position of leader, of caretaker of the earth. But he bypassed the requirements, or he bypassed the setup of choosing the one that would take over the reins of caring for the earth. It was like how would I put it? Like, I don't want to use the word raffle, but it's sort of a raffle kind of, speak to the issue in terms of the fact of making a bid, setting up a bid that the one who meets the requirement of the bid would get the prize that is being offered. So that kind of an understanding goes with this covenant business that was offered to Esau and Jacob, or Jacob commonly called. Esau didn't want it, so he opted out. There was no, it was no need to toss up and say, well, who's stepping forward? These are the requirements. Who's stepping forward to take charge? Only one was left, as Jacob, and to him was given the bid for the position to have rulership over the earth. And then come along Satan, Gabriel, the fallen, whom we have referenced to you over and over again, fallen from heaven, from in the place where the Most High dwell, cast down because he had no regard for Torah, for the Most High. Cast to the earth, and then making his own covenant with Esau to topple the covenant that the Most High Yah had already granted unto Abraham and to his seed to manage the needs of the earth we live upon, today, to now. And so Satan came along and offered Esau a contract to have the earth. And I guess I should say, do what with it as they please. This was the manner of Satan's covenant that he made with Esau. What they say from Anton Levi, do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt. This was Satan's covenant with Esau. And Esau jumped for that. Through wars and desecration, destroyed the earth and all the people upon it. From the time the covenant was offered until now, Esau destroyed the earth and is still intent on doing so. While we say that the bid, or the one receiving the honor of the bid for the covenant authority and blessing to have rule of the earth, was already passed unto Jacob, or Jacob. And in Jacob was born 12 sons. And the head of the 12 sons, who also come in the covenant blessing, was the Mashiach. So he didn't come exactly in the same time that the 12 sons were born, but he came on later in the historical process and was born in the days of Herod, Pilate, Edomite kings and authorities that had gotten the rule over the land promised to Abraham and to his seed. We're breaking it down for you economists and scientists and humanitarians, all of that. We're breaking it down for you today. And we hope you come and learn. We hope you learn indeed. And so, having received the covenant by oath unto Abraham, our father, our forefathers, began the mission to restore the earth from the damages Satan had done in it when he was cast down out of the heavens. And having gotten into the I guess I should say the presence of the ones chosen to have rule over the earth, that is Adam and his wife, Hawa, Gabriel, having gotten into them, was led into their relationship by the woman. Thus, Gabriel launched his campaign that in time reached out to Esau and told Esau they're giving out, the presidency award for the running of the earth. So, I could give it to you. They were talking about giving it to this one Yaquab, this Jacob fellow from Abraham. But I can get it for you, Esau. And Esau, remembering that he had rejected the covenant, didn't want anything to do with it. But when he gets the call, this long distance call from Gabriel to tell him he could have the kingdom, he ran for it. He dashed off for it. He got a renewal in his timeline. So he wanted the benefits of the covenant. And ever since that time has launched havoc upon the earth. And it has reached the boiling point now to the time that the scriptures call. Let's see what the scriptures say about it. The scriptures say about it in Luke chapter 21. Let's read it. And we're going to connect all of this for you. Yasha Allah, directly for the benefit of Yasha Allah and the nations of the earth, all the high, the high ones of the earth, those in high technical positions, leaders. Name your position from king, queen, right on down. We're speaking to you. Come to the feast and learn. In Luke chapter 21, in verse 24, it says of the provisional rulers of the earth, 12 tribes, in their conflict with Esau, Edom, who have been set aside because of their own rebellion against Abba Yah, the Most High. So they had to be put through. They had to be put through some testings to make sure of their qualifications to inherit the promise that they were signed up for. The covenant was already sealed unto Abraham and to his seed, which seed inclusive of the 12 tribes themselves, and the Mashiach that was born in the days of Herod the king. So there was a dispute going on because of Gabriel interposing himself in opposition to a covenant that was already established. So he wanted to turn back this covenant and make it relevant to Esau. Esau had charge of this covenant and, run everything. And this is the basics of the conflict in human history. And as we have gotten to this point, because this time is the point of contact with the understanding of the heritage proposition, that is, the covenant that has already been established unto Abraham and to his seed, that Gabriel, Satan, and Esau, the rejected, have come together and decided that they would have this covenant or the benefits of this covenant unto themselves. Somebody else must pay the price of securing this covenant. It had to be paid for. And the ones who paid for it, i.e., the 12 tribes, they paid for it by the actions of their leader, who was born a long time after the 12 were born in the process of time. The principal head of the covenant blessing was born in the days of Herod the king and Pilate. And you know the history of what Herod and Pilate sought to do to them. So when it came to the time of payment for the covenant, there was no Esau around to pay for this covenant. This covenant had to be paid for. I mean, if you get a deed for a property, you got to pay some money. You know that. And under Esau, look how it's set up. That Esau would charge the hairs of your head off of you, in particular regard to us, Yasha'Allah, who are in the earth, burdened by his leadership, not leadership, his headship under Satan. He charge your eyeballs out of your head because he intends to have the world that is of a birthright covenant paid for by the 12 tribes through their headship, the Mashiach. And in spite of the fact that the Mashiach made good the demand of the birthright blessing, that is, with the proprietor who's auctioning off a property, that is the earth, with the inhabitants thereon in the auction. The Mashiach of Yasha'Allah is the one who steps forward. He steps forward and says, here, I bid for this property and the people on it. What price do you want? What is my price? What is your price? In Zechariah, they say the price is 30 pieces of silver. That's what they paid. $30 pieces of silver. And so with the payment of 30 pieces of silver, Esau sought to take the kingdom that was offered unto Yaquab, whose head standing up for the ownership of the covenant was Mashiach. So Esau was having 30 pieces of silver offered by the auspices of the Levites, the Levitical priesthood. They were the go-through. I don't know if lawyer you might call them. They were the lawyer, for Esau. And so they taking 30 pieces of silver as the head price of the head, price for the head of the covenant blessing unto Abraham. They want to usurp it. So upon the direction of Satan, Gabriel, they're taking 30 pieces of silver from the priesthood of Levi to cover charges for the birthright. And they're going to take the Mashiach and crucify him, thinking that with his death, they could just pounce upon the ownership of the heritage that he died for, to secure unto the 12 tribes. As their head, he dies for the covenant. As you go into the book of Hebrew or Hebrews and see it set out there in one compact form, but it's all through the scriptures. The covenant is all through the scriptures. That's why Esau has had so much trouble trying to break it up. He thought he could break it up, but it was all through the scriptures. The covenant is all through the scriptures. From what we call the Old Testament and the New Testament, that are the original covenant made by Yahweh and written by Yahweh's own finger in the presence of Moshe upon Mount Sinai, that is over across the road. There, Africa there, and Arabia. This is what happened in real talk. Anyone on the earth could go there, who is able, go there and see the place where Mount Sinai is today, as it was in the days of Moshe, and see where the covenant was ratified by the giving of the 10 laws unto Moshe. And then the statute laws and so on, came together with that in the process of time, in the prophetic template of offering of the words, the statutes. Well, these are now ambassadors and lawyers for the crown, Yahweh. That's who the 12 tribes are. So they were taking their orders to set up all the bylaws and whatever have you for the kingdom. That's what the old covenant is about. And Esau didn't realize that when he set about to rewrite and distribute the document of the covenant in his name because of Satan. Today we want to take the fact of the historical disturbance to recast for the ownership of the covenant. I was paid for already at Calvary in Jerusalem or across the road. We're not speaking of matters out of mind or that cannot be verified. Jerusalem is on this earth. Mount Sinai is on this earth. The Garden of Eden is on this earth. And so we say that Esau, who was given by Gadriel, Satan, this notion that he could have the kingdom, has been for all these years, since the covenant was rejected by Esau. From all these years, he'd been under Satan's authority and rule, seeking to overturn the rules of order, which have been laid out by the owner of the cosmos and the owner of the earth. Now, we know, I think we know quite well, for those of us who do not understand, after all, we know about evolution. Esau's bid to throw out the idea of the Most High Yahweh having authoritative power to create the heaven and earth. So Esau said it was some amoeba and some other fellows that created the heavens and the earth. And there was a big bang. And so the heavens and the earth was created by a big bang. This is Esau's theory that he got from Satan and the demons, causing confusion in the earth. We are here as Yasha'Allah, 12 tribes, children of the cradle that the Mashiach came out of. He is the principal head of the covenant, and he purchased it by his own blood in Jerusalem, across the road here, right here next to Africa. They crucified him. Esau, when I say they, I'm talking about Esau and Satan and all the demons with the high priest of our nation, Levi. They crucified him, all in their bid to get the documents. You know, the what they call it, the deed. They were trying to get the deed. But the prophets, the companions of the Messiah, wrote down the stipulations of the deed as the authoritative understanding, defining the parameters and the perimeters of the covenant, according to the wisdom and order of the Most High Yahweh. Esau has never been able to produce such a document. He's produced evolution, as I was referencing to you a few moments ago. That's what he produced. Evolution and a whole bunch of nonsense and hypotheses, whereof I'm speaking to the so-called scientists now, and the high-profile world leaders of all kinds and all level of knowledge and stature, all of you, you have been driven by Esau's evolutionary theories. And we have solid proof that our Father Yahweh created the heaven and the earth, and he made that sun out there that we huddle together to receive warmth from every day. He made that. Evolution didn't do that. And so our mandate now, in the end of world, Esau's world that he made all attempts to claim for himself. He didn't know that the writings of the Torah was complete. And when he began to understand, he made a bid to scramble for it and call it his own. But there was no room. So he spliced the book and make different parts, try to say different things, took out other things. He took out much of other things to try to get control of the book as being his own, all to help him secure the land, the property of the Mashiach. Became the authority over. He paid the price for the deed. And so this has been the contention. This is what has been, under review of the whole world for these thousands of years. We come to set the record straight and let you know that today, according to Revelation, I believe chapter 2, or in chapter 1 and thereabouts, we are told that the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Master, of the Most High Yahweh and his Mashiach. And he shall reign and rule forever and ever. Esau don't stand a chance, nor does Gadriel, Satan, or any other. We're setting the record straight for you today. But we got to show it to you in plain language, and you could see it for yourself and know without a doubt that deed that was signed by the blood of Hamashiach for the property that is the earth, the whole earth, was signed by the blood of Mashiach. And Pilate witnessed it. Pilate witnessed it. And thereafter was written a thing called the Nicene Creed to show proof of the scramble of Esau for the property that the deed secured. The Nicene Creed says Esau crucified the Messiah in Jerusalem. Well, first they said they believe. But who did they believe in? They believe in God, Satan, and call him the maker of heaven and earth. And while they call him the maker of heaven and earth, they surely made reference to the crucifixion of our Mashiach, who paid for the deed that they were trying to have lordship or kingship power over in the mention of a false name, false character. This they offer to the world. What a trick. What an accomplishment. Making reference to the Mashiach by the works that he accomplished to pay for the deed. But they give him the name of Satan, their God, to be the signage for their coverage to secure the deed. So you see now why Revelation mentions the depths of Satan. And these matters. We're going to take it a little bit further now and go into the matter of the blood oath covenant produced in our time under the rulership of Napoleon Bonaparte, Esau's son, and his connection with the fallen Levitical priests, whom he took under his wings. Yes, in the French Revolution, so-called, they wouldn't mention the Haitian Revolution in the idea of the French Revolution because they wanted to cover the fact of the dominance of the so-called Haitians in the securing of rights in terms of Esau's worldview. The Levites were the power structure behind securing this right. Because the Levites took responsibility for the sacrificial offering that was the house of Judah, Yahweh, whom they sacrificed mercilessly. Levi was sacrificing the whole Caribbean for Esau and Satan. And the principal sacrifice they were offering Satan was, of course, the leading tribe, Yahweh, Judah itself. But we're going to see the ritual side of the securing of this covenant, we'll say, to give Esau authority in his realm of leadership and rulership to continue dominating the tribes that they scattered throughout all the earth. Let's take a look at it. I have a note here that I put together concerning this presentation, and I want to read that for you before we go right into it. This note underscores the point of the mystery of iniquity, and it says, understanding the mystery of iniquity, what is it? And it points to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I think we understand 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, that many people refer to the main meat of its revelation concerning the manner of sin. Many people call it the Antichrist. This is from the direction of Esau. Call it the Antichrist. But our knowledge of this, as it would be in the original Hebrew text, is the man of sin, who is a fallen Levitical priest. So in that fallen state, the Levites, they became vassals of Esau through the Catholic Church. And as fallen priests themselves, I'm speaking of the Levites, they were inducted into a priesthood of no priests. What priests would they be? Who inducted them? Satan? Where does he have any authority to create a priesthood? Where is Satan's authority? He didn't have it. And this is why he was on a rant, a rage, a rampage, I should say, to gain the captivity of the Levitical priesthood so that he could legitimize his authority to lay claim of right to hold the 12 tribes under his banner. So if he got a hold of the priesthood, then he would have the knowledge of how to rule over the 12 tribes. Can you see that? I think Isaac Hayes makes it famous. Can you dig it? So the capture of the Levites, and it was strategic in the 400 years of enslavement, that they took the Levites. Esau took the Levites and put them, as it were, in a remote mountainous area. All of this was strategic from Satan, from Gadriel. Yatakamayan. So putting them in IT and now creating the Catholic Church, Church of Witchcraft itself. They had the drawing power, I could say, I guess. But they had the drawing presence that would attract the fallen Levites to become Catholics. And from becoming Catholics, entering Catholic priesthood under Napoleon's rule. In the debacle that was going on there, I forget the name of the king at that time, Louis or something, but this is when you had the economic crisis in the 1700s. And what do you call it? I forget it, but you know what it is. The economic crisis that reigned in France, whereof the Levites, the fallen priesthood, who became priests in the Catholic Church order, offered their assistance to Napoleon to bring a remedy for the economic crisis in France. And the Levite, the fallen Levite, gladly offered their assistance, gave them the advice of making slaves, 12 tribes. Not only that, they instituted the sign of covenant in blood by first slaughtering some of the French themselves. Oh, yeah, it was a bloodbath. And then, of course, they have to seal it with the sacrifice of Judah. This was a blood sacrifice that brought together these two. Officiating in the sacrament of the sacrificial offering was Levi. And the main offering that Esau proffered or put forth unto Napoleon, the Catholic Church, was the idea of splicing. That would mean, as an end result, the joining together of a Levite and a Yashraelite, a Judite, if you will. The process required, as you would maybe have studied ancient technique of splicing. The Levites with the full blessing of the Catholic Church, Esau, spliced. They took the heart. Let me show you in a kind of graphic. My art ain't too good. But first, let me finish reading to you this note I wrote here some time ago, and that I want to share with you to let you better understand the splicing technique that I'm going to share with you. You remember this picture I showed you concerning the matter of the Willie Lynch letter? Which showed the capture of the Hebrews by the Levites jamming the frequency of the brain, which you can see as a representation of electric current passing around the brain and onto the heart. They were jamming the electrical current between the brain and the heart and bringing confusion to the house of Yahweh and the 12 tribes across the earth. And so in this process of jamming the frequencies here, what they ultimately needed was what I'm going to show you in this second graphic that I put together. To have a deeper understanding of the first picture I showed you, what we have here is a representation of the head of a white man, Esau, and you see the dark spots coming down, what represents the jugular veins coming down from Esau to connect with the jugular veins of a black man, a Judite, Yahweh. And the splicing required these two, the jugular vein of this white man and this black man, to be joined together. See that? So it becomes the heart of the black man pumping the blood to give life to Esau, the Edomite. Of course, the Edomite has got the head. He's the head. providing the brain thrust of this entity, this newly formed entity that Levi has created by splicing. The head of the Edomite connected to the heart of the Judahite, Yasha'Allah. This is how Satan's new man was created. Esau as head over the Judah. I know my art ain't so good. I tried to have someone who was more qualified amongst us. I'm talking about us as the 12 tribes. No one would step forward to help me, assist me. So I have been doing my best to try and bring it to you. Maybe later on someone would come and assist me. But this is the actual representation of what happened in Napoleon's liberty, eternity, what's the rest of it? Equality. This is what happened. The splicing of the two personalities, Esau and Jacob, was spliced, put together by Levi. This is why the heat of the wrath and fire of the Most High is coming so hot against Levi. Now that you can understand, Esau was spliced with Jacob. But Esau having the headship over the heart. This is the new man that was formed in the French Revolution under the leadership of Levi, whose offering was to give relief to the economic crisis in France. And so once they had finished the splicing, then everything simmered down. Levi secured headship to himself by the splicing in the blood oath covenant that they had. That is the crowning work of the blood oath covenant that I was sharing with you. And I still didn't get to finish my note leading up to, the artistic representation of what we were going on to. Well, let me kind of read it again to you to make a connection. What is it? That is the mystery of iniquity. So it is this. It is the process of splicing and putting two different species together, making them one, thus producing a new category of individual. The man of sin, therefore, is the adding or putting together of a fallen Levite priest and an offspring of Esau. The title man of sin derives out of the addition of one consecrated to the Most High, that is priesthood or Levite, the one under oath of consecration to the Most High, defiantly giving himself to be used of Satan to fulfill the mission of priesthood by Satan's demand. So this is what Satan was trying to secure. But he could not cross over because Yahweh don't mix with foolishness and with sin, nor does Hamashiach. So the fallen Levite was fallen indeed. He could not make contact to the Most High, as Satan wanted to secure. He wanted to secure a connection back to the Most High, and back to heaven, but he couldn't do it. And thus, the weight of the splicing, what was sought after to be secured, fell upon the tribes because of the rebellion of our forefathers against the Most High and refusing to listen and live by the Torah. So the Most High was getting payment back for the rebellion against him and the hurt and pain that it caused them. Well, I mean, we could think it was a vindictive idea behind it. Who, if it is, what can we do to stop it? We created the problem by disobedience and rebellion, and so the Most High was letting it play out. It didn't play out when the crucifixion was actually undertaken and accomplished, but in the fullness of time, with the accomplishment of the 400 years enslavement that Abraham, our forefather, was warned about, that made him tremble when he saw it. This, what I'm sharing with you, is what disturbed Abraham so much when he saw what was happening to his children. This splicing that was going to put together Esau, Jacob, in this bitter relationship that was going to be only pain and bloodshed. This was the catalyst behind Esau claiming such wisdom and knowledge and power and might and showing himself to be so much, because he had been spliced with the Judite, with the house of Israel. And the power of the crucifixion and the resurrection had to take care of all of that. Now you begin to understand the weight that was upon the Mashiach, why he was such a man of sorrow, the weight that he had to carry to correct what his children had messed up in the earth. Between them both, Esau and Jacob, they messed it up. And the Most High, as the book of, I think, Isaiah has said, and the Most High had laid on the Mashiach the iniquity of us all. So you had this chameleon then, that Levi, the priesthood, had the skill to connect and put together. And thus the blood oath covenant, the pinnacle achievement of the blood oath covenant was the splicing of Esau and Jacob, that promoted Esau as the head and gave him all that authority coming out of that splicing to proclaim himself Lord of the Ring and King of the Hill. This is how it happened. And the crucifixion had to take care of all of that. But the Most High have to give it time to develop and produce its mission that could be evident to the whole world. I think we've given it to you, Yasha Allah, in basic. This is how it happened. Esau's head connected to Jacob's heart. The sacrifice, the blood of the Mashiach, and the gift of the Ruach had to cancel that. So we give the Most High praise and thanks for the revelation and for securing us, putting us in our right place. As we move toward the end, we bless you, Yasha Allah, in the name of the Most High, Yahweh, and of the Blessed Son, our Savior, and of the Ruach, the seal of the authority of Allah Hayam, King of the world, King of the earth, King of the heavens, Yahweh, made it by his great power, and his counsel shall stand. So let it be.